Somebody's got to stop old Netflix from destroying any more of these franchises, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's getting a little too far. Now, to understand what I'm talking about here, you might have heard Resident Evil just had its television show finally out. Now, as you all know, I love Resident Evil. Yeah, I love this franchise to death. It's probably one of my most favorite survival horror franchises, period, okay? When I was a kid on the PlayStation 1, all right, this is the survival horror game I got, okay? The other kids got Silent Hill. I got Resident Evil, and I love it, okay? The fact that I run around Zambles, I manage my items well, and I only have like a few saves, well, a lot of saves throughout the course of the game, and a giant mystery to uncover that's not about ghosts, but about evil, shady corporations testing bioweapons. I am all for that, okay? I love Resident Evil. Now, let's start off with the fact that Resident Evil does not have a massive high bar to set when it comes to the storyline. If you actually logically look at the storyline to Resident Evil games, you will know very quickly that the storyline that exists is laughable, okay? We started off with the mansion incident in the first game, then the fact that in Resident Evil 2 and 3, Raccoon City gets nuked, okay? Umbrella gets exposed. The fact that a nuke went off in a United States city and just basically becomes like, flavor news later on in Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 is kind of wild. It shows you the priority of the people in the world of Resident Evil. Oh, remember? Hey, Tom, you remember when that nuke dropped? Yep, in Raccoon City? Yeah, I vaguely remember it. Yeah, that time the zombies, right? That thing? Yeah, that's the world of Resident Evil. A few years later, President's daughter gets kidnapped in Spain. Who knows what the fuck Secret Security was doing that day? Whatever Secret Service was on about Delta Force, missed me with that. Hey, Tom, remember when they sent one U.S. agent to rescue the president's daughter? Yeah, I heard that he was in Raccoon City. He was a cop first day on the job. Yeah, that's the story. Then Resident Evil 5. Hey, Tom, remember Africa when all those zombies kicked out of nowhere? Yeah, I remember they sent that one guy that used to be a cop from Raccoon City into Africa. It was wild. The BSAA did a great job where you had dollar store Neo from the Matrix dressed up as Wesker. Complete global saturation. And then Resident Evil 6. Oh, let's not forget the piece de resistance. The time where Leon's running away from a million cars exploding and China and the United States both get zombie apocalypses. Who would have guessed? Then Resident Evil 7 with like the Dulvey Manor incident. Then Resident Evil 8 with the fucking Muta Mycete. Come on now, this storyline is bonkers, and we're not even talking about the Revelations games, the Outbreak, Dead Aim, whatever you want to call Survivor, the Japanese stage play. Yeah, we're not even getting into all that. It's very difficult to make a storyline out of a franchise, so, puckered. Now, Netflix, God bless be that they are, greenlight everything, and they greenlit the Resident Evil show. Now, to understand the Resident Evil show that we're seeing over here, this is the title introduction piece. This is sort of the logo. And the reason I'm showing you the logo is it's very indicative of where the show goes into. They kind of looked at it and it's like, yeah, make it look kind of like that Squid Game vibe. What does this say? How does this even come across as Resident Evil? You guys really couldn't source the original font? Really couldn't do that? Really couldn't make it, really couldn't line it up. Nah, you just got to put generic font that you found into the mix. What does that logo mean in the background? You'll find out if you watch the show. Don't worry. Now, of course, since then, you might have heard of some of the wackiest lines on this, and I want to kind of rip the Band-Aid off. Yes, the Zootopia porn line is real. I watched the show, okay, on Netflix as soon as it dropped out. Ladies and gentlemen, this show, which, by the way, all right, no joke intended, #1 in television shows today, okay? I don't know how, I feel like Netflix puts the metal on them, all right? It's 8 episodes. Go check it out for yourself, especially if you want to absolutely catch some top-tier wild actions. Now, of course, the Zootopia line happens literally in the first segment of the show, when the Wesker family is moving into their new life in New Raccoon City. The way that you can suss out if somebody's actually watched the show or they're just hate reviewing it on the internet because they've only seen like 10 minutes or a clip online is towards the half of the middle point of the season. I think it's episode 4 or 5. The episode is titled Home Movies. They literally directly reference what happened to the original Raccoon City. Apparently the nukes did fall, but I guess Umbrella somehow like gaslit everyone or like hid the truth from people, and it was blamed on a gas leak. I don't know how that actually happens. And when it comes to Wesker, the Wesker character in this is in fact a clone of the original Wesker, of which, yes, the Wesker that you're seeing here was the clone looks the exact same. And that Wesker did in fact die, believe it or not, in the volcano in Resident Evil 5. So they do directly have references to prior games. However, those references are like, very surface level. Like it's the things that somebody would know if they read like the Wikipedia plot guide of those games. The way that they wrote the lore for the show is kind of like if somebody at Netflix was like, hey, we got to write a Resident Evil show. What are the things about Resident Evil? Zombies? That's it. Yeah, they got Raccoon City. Yeah, the Raccoon City's. Wait, what's that company's name? Umbrella. I think that's all we need. Hey, is there a character from the show? Wesker, yeah, that's the one. Hell yeah, God bless. Now, Wesker's the only, like, remaining character, like, the only character that kind of really links anything to, like, the grandiose, like, Resident Evil we all know and love. So, of course, in the beginning of the show, the Wesker family is moving into New Raccoon City in South Africa. It's like an umbrella-run community where, like, everything is white and teal. And as they move into this community, you find out Albert Wesker, who's played by Lance Reddick, the one actor that, by the way, carries the entire show. Like, his portrayal of Albert Wesker is as solid as you can imagine. And I'm going to show you a clip from the show where it really cements the deal once I give you more context. But of course, the porn line from Zootopia actually ended up showing after these family moves in. Of course, the two daughters in this case, you've got Billy Wesker, who you know is Billy Wesker because I'm not joking with you. They played a Billie Eilish song to sort of remind you that Billy, you see the name matches up. And then you've got Jade Wesker. And of course, once they move in, all right, they basically have this line. Jade drops this bombshell.
And plenty of room to run and play.
Plenty of room to run and play.
Right. I mostly just read Zootopia porn, so.
Boy, kind of do want the T-virus myself, if I'll be honest with you. Yeah, they straight up dropped that line. I had to wonder if this is a deep fake or not. You can even see Lance Reddick in the actual show going, oh, fuck me. Why did I agree to the script? Why did I do this? And then, of course, it gets even wilder. Now, the Pornhub line you may have actually known where they reference the company directly is actually kind of badass. In the show, Billy Wesker gets bullied, and because of an altercation at school, Wesker has to show up to the principal's office. And basically, in order to threaten the bully's dads with like their employment, he basically like tells them, hey, bro, what do you do at Umbrella? Oh, you work as a server admin? Bro, 10,000 people can do your job. But you know who can wear sunglasses in the dark and look like Neo? Me. I'm Wesker. And of course, he basically shames him. It's actually a kind of a badass scene. The way that Lance Reddick portrays this is amazing. Watch this.
I don't want you fired. I want you blacklisted. I want it so that no tech company ever hires you. Not Apple, not Google. I want Pornhub to shred your resume. Now.
Dude, that line is delivered so bad. The fact that I believe that there was at least 10 takes involved in this, because there's no way Lance was walking away with this not laughing his ass off. That line was delivered badass, okay? I'll be real with you. It's probably the one saving grace, at least in the first episode of the show. Now, of course, the more you watch this entire show, the more you realize it has very little to do with Resident Evil. Now, the only time you ever really notice anything Resident Evil-y in this is, like, typically towards, like, the middle of the show, because the show typically does this thing where it's, like, the past and the future, so it combines, like, a storyline from 2022, which is before the outbreak, and then 2036, which is well after the outbreak. And you never really get enough time to be truly invested into both these stories, so you kind of just don't even care. And it's also that the characters just, again, whether they're old or young, none of it's fun. You come across this teen drama shit between, like, both time periods, especially when it comes to the Wesker sisters. But again, to go back, one of the things that you'll find typically towards, episode 5, episode 6, it is home movies. They start to reference a lot of Resident Evil stuff. Like, they have a whole segment of just puzzles, but then they also, like, play the Moonlight Sonata. They do a whole bunch of things that call back. And that's where it gets, like, the most Resident Evil that whole franchise has ever been, like this whole TV show. And then it has one cool segment in the future with one of the characters, Baxter, who's absolutely like doing the best representation of mercenaries ever. So there are some cool moments, but again, this constant back and forth skip just doesn't work too well. Honest to God, though, if it wasn't for like one of the episodes where they were calling back to Resident Evil Hard, the whole show is so generic that you could literally take any other, zombie concept, apply it to the show, and it would be just as applicable. It literally does become Resident Evil in name only. I mean, I feel like this scene is indicative of it. So this is literally taken from the lobby of Umbrella's research factories in South Africa, right? New Raccoon City. And so in the episode, they break in to like Umbrella Corporation to like uncover some secrets or whatever. Animal testing, as the show wants to like initially lead the two Wesker daughters into doing. So the two Wesker daughters steal their like Albert Wesker's badge, break in to Umbrella's research facility, get to the actual like deepest parts of it, like where the actual work is being done, and there's not a fucking security camera in sight. There's not one guard patrolling the area. At some point, they come across the dog, all right, the infamous zombie dogs, and they escape that. One of them gets bitten. Throughout this entire altercation, there is no security working at one of the most secure companies on the planet. Literally, the writing on this show couldn't be more bad if you fucking tried. And then it's even wilder that like the showrunners didn't even care that in this one scene where they're actually having a call, the computer hasn't actually been connected to the internet, and she's using Paint to somehow communicate with this person. Truly a wild scenario indeed, not even joking with it. I would actually say it's so bad that it's not even good at this point. Because honestly, this show has nothing to do with Resident Evil, to the point that you could literally take the title Zombie U and probably apply it better to this scenario. Because that is more to do with this game's source material than this TV show source material than the Resident Evil games have to do with the show's source material. So eventually, when Lance Reddick ends up becoming full Wesker, this is what he looks like. And to be fair with you, what we just saw in comparison to this is probably the best like Wesker cosplay I've seen doing. I feel like, this script, the actors did the best they could with what they had. And even when you compare it to like the the video games that people keep saying are always like campy and whatnot, even the remakes are a little bit different in comparison. Because even if you play Resident Evil 2 Remake, you'll find that they put a lot of effort into cutscenes, right? Especially when it came to like Kendo, for instance.
Those fucking things outside. What they did to us. You're a cop. You're supposed to know something. How did this happen? Huh? She was our sweet little angel.
Mommy.
I was sleeping, honey. Okay? And I'm gonna put you to bed too, okay? Just go. Just give us some privacy.
You know, it's one thing to keep the truth from me, but why him? Whatever it takes
That
to save
one
this city.
scene from a video game
Count me
did a
in.
lot better than the entire Netflix show. And I had to play that whole segment in close to its entirety just to really set the mood. Comparing it to the original game, which was the B movie that a lot of people like to reference, and then you look at it in the eyes and lens of the remake, clearly, the people who actually care for the franchise and write for the franchise do a lot better than whatever you see in the Hollywood, versions of the franchise, where they make the TV shows and the crappy movies. Honestly, the TV show that we got over here has so little to do with Resident Evil that I'm convinced if Uwe fucking Boll got somehow onto this production, Uwe Boll could do a better job than the showrunners for Netflix. The only saving grace to this show, not even joking with you, is Lance Reddick playing Wesker. He tries to put all of his effort into it, and for that, I commend the man for surviving 8 episodes of this brutal gauntlet. That said, though, Netflix destroys yet another live adaptation of a franchise, and if this thing doesn't get a second, season or a third season, and suddenly they blame it on, like, lack of, what are you gonna blame it on, okay? The fact that you didn't even try, of course Resident Evil fans weren't gonna care. The only people that are actually going to say the show is okay are the ones that put it in the background while they're actually having sex, and they're like, yeah, the show is decent. I maybe paid, like, 5 seconds of attention to it throughout the whole thing. I guess it's close to Resident Evil. I mean, there's Resident, and there's some evil, there's some zombies, and there's that weird umbrella thing. I'm sure it'll succeed in that regard. But you know what? I'm just one man's opinion. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.